Hello everyone, welcome to the NinjaTrader webinar room. My name is Chelsea Bell. I'm working in the NinjaScript department here in our Colorado office. I'd like to test for picture and sound. If you can hear my voice and you can see the NinjaScript Editor slide in the room, go ahead and enter a Y into the room for me now. Thank you very much, guys. Sounds like I'm coming through loud and clear. It is important to understand there are substantial risks in trading community futures contracts. You should carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you. This will depend on your specific circumstances and financial resources. It is possible to lose all of the funds deposited into your account, and you can incur losses beyond these amounts. Please inquire at brokerage support at ninjatrader.com if you would like more information or if you'd like to get a copy of the CFTC full risk disclosure. Do keep in mind, these training webinars are not a solicitation nor a recommendation, but simply educational in nature. So today we're going to be learning a little bit more in depth about NinjaScript. We're going to be working with an unlock strategy and manipulating C# code directly. Now, NinjaTrader is a free application for advanced charting, market analytics, and automated strategy development, as well as trade simulation. We do charge for our product if and when you decide to trade live on the NinjaTrader platform. And if you'd like to learn more, take a look at the links that I have entered into the yellow information box below the display. And one other note is over the next few weeks, we'll be launching our new education events, but we still have not completed our improvements and we could use your feedback. At the end of this event, we have a 4-question survey and you can tell us what we can do to improve, and we really do appreciate your feedback. So let's go ahead and jump in. I've moved on to the desktop sharing section. You should see the control center in the window, which I'm moving around. If right now the projection's not coming through, just enter something into the room for me. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started. To start today, what we're going to do is we're going to copy a script. So that's going to be the first step that we do. Now to start this, let's start by creating first a new script. We'll go to Tools and then New NinjaScript and then Strategy. And this is going to bring open the Strategy Wizard. Starting on the bottom left, we have the Help button if you ever need to get help. The View Code button. This is going to allow us to view the code of the strategy without unlocking it. So here's the view code here. And we're going to be using that in just a minute. The Unlock Code button. Once this is clicked, it will unlock your script for editing. And then the Compile button. This will get your script ready for use. I'm going to go ahead and click Next once. Let's call this Sample Script. A really simple name. Now to make the copy, I'm going to click the View Code button. So I'm going to click View Code here. You can see that we have the code of the sample script. To make the copy, I'm going to right-click the script and select Save As. In the Save As window, this is very similar to like a Word document. By clicking Save As, it basically makes a copy. So we'll call this Sample Script Copy. Actually, sorry, before I do that, one step that I've missed. We started this new script, but this script is not actually ready for use. To get this script ready for use, we need to compile the script. We can do this by right-clicking and selecting Compile. And we can also click the Compile button within the window itself. So I'll click Compile. This gets my script ready for use. And when I click Save As, you'll notice that it actually has sample script listed as one of these scripts that are available. So for the copy here, we're going to call this Sample Script Copy, just a real simple name. And click OK. It lets me know that this was saved as a new file and that we can now modify the copy. So the reason that I'm doing this is because once you've unlocked a script, you can no longer use the strategy wizard to modify that script. So once I click unlock code here on this is still the sample script, the first one that we made. Once I click the unlock code button here, I can no longer use the strategy wizard to modify that strategy. So what I want to do is I want to make a copy. That way I can use the strategy wizard on the original one, and I can put any text that I need to into the copy. So let's go ahead and do that. We've got sample script copy here, but right now this script is currently locked for editing. If I try typing here, I cannot edit this script. It is still locked. So this is the sample script. What we'll do here is we'll open up the sample script copy script, and now we're going to unlock this so that we can modify the code directly. So again, I went to Tools, Edit NinjaScript, Strategy. I've selected sample script copy, and then I'm going to click OK. So that was Tools, Edit NinjaScript, Strategy, and then sample script copy. Okay, so here's the strategy wizard with our sample script, which you can see here in the name. And then we now have our sample script copy script. And now I want to unlock this. So I'm going to go ahead and click the unlock button. When I click this, there's a message that appears and it says, after unlocking, you can manually edit the wizard generated code, but you can no longer configure the strategy by the wizard. So it's just letting you know that once you have unlocked this script, you can no longer use the strategy wizard to modify that script. And there's no way to relock it so that you can continue using the strategy wizard. It's just once it's unlocked, it's permanently unlocked. So now we have an unlocked sample script copy. If I start typing here, you'll see I actually do have text that appears. The script is no longer locked. I can no longer use the wizard to modify this script, but I can now type in any C# code that I would like. So I'm going to ask just a few questions in the room just to make sure that everything I'm saying is clear. All right. So question one is if two scripts, oh, sorry about that. This is actually one thing I did not go over just yet. When we are creating our script, and I should have mentioned this as we were making the copy here, when I go into Save As, the name that we use for the script has to be unique. And the reason that it must be unique is because the actual name of the script is used as the, let me go ahead and close this window for now. It's used as the class name of the script. I don't want to get too deep into C#, but the class is basically the container for all of your script's code. So pretty much everything that you're going to write into your strategy is going to be within this class that has the name of your script. So my script is called sample script copy. That's the class name, and the class must be unique for every class within NinjaTrader. What that means is that every strategy and every indicator will all have to have unique names. So my sample script, if I tried to use this name now, sample script copy, there's already a sample script copy, and if I click OK, it's going to tell me that it already exists. And if I click yes on this, it's just going to overwrite it, and it's going to delete whatever was there before. So each name used for your script must be unique. Okay, now I can go ahead and ask that question. And the question is if two scripts use the same name, how can these be distinguished? And as I was going over, the name here is used for the class name. So how can these be distinguished? Will the version number tell them apart? The date of the script will tell them apart? Will it not be possible to distinguish between two scripts that have the same name? Or must the names be unique, as these are used for the class name? And we've got most of the answers in. Great job, guys. Gonna go ahead and stop the poll. And the answer to that is definitely number 4. The script names must be unique because they are used for the class names. Let's move on to the next question. And this one's about unlocking the script. If a script is unlocked and it will not open with the strategy wizard, how can it be relocked? 1, it cannot be relocked. 2, there's a relock button you can click. 3, you can click undo until the script is back in the wizard editable mode. Or 4, you can remove all custom code and that will automatically make it back into the wizard editable mode. So again, I was mentioning before about the unlock button. And once you click that unlock button, it brings open the strategy editor here. And once we've clicked unlock, how is it that we can put that back into the strategy wizard? I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll. And just to review real quick, once you have clicked the unlock button, you will no longer be able to modify that script with the strategy wizard. And this is part of why we're making a copy. So we went through the steps so that we could make a copy of the script. That way we can modify the copy using C# code manually, and we can keep the original script inside of the strategy wizard. That way we can generate code using the strategy wizard, and we can copy that over to the unlocked version of the code. And actually, let's go ahead and do that. That takes us right into our next section. So our next section here is actually about syntax. And in the process, I'm going to copy over a little bit of code so we can kind of see where things go. So over here, we've got our edit strategy. This is the sample script that you can see here in the name. And it's asking about user-defined inputs. And if you were part of the strategy wizard course, which precedes this one, the user-defined inputs are kind of talked about there. These are used as variables within your script. I'm going to go ahead and skip this section for now, but if you do have any interest or curiosity about what all of this is used for, go ahead and watch the Strategy Wizard webinar next week with me, Friday at the same time, 12 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to go ahead and just click Next here, and I'm going to throw in a condition and action set. It's just going to be for the basic crossover. But once I've taken this, once I've created this here in sets 1 and 2, I'm going to copy this over to the unlock script. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the strategy wizard to generate the code. And then we're going to use that code and we're going to put it into our unlock script where we've got all of our custom code. So to do this, let's start by making a crossover real quick. When the SMA, let's give it, I don't know, period of 7 or so, crosses above the SMA with a period of 14, we'll enter a long position. And I'm going to copy this. Just click and copy. Set 2, right click and paste. We'll use the opposite with cross below. And then we're going to enter a short position. So this is a very, very basic crossover script. Set 1 here. We've got if it crosses above the 7 SMA crosses above the 14 SMA, we'll enter long. For set 2, if the SMA with a period of 7 crosses below the SMA with a period of 14, we'll enter short. And the next thing I'm going to do is hit the View Code button. I'm not clicking Unlock, I'm clicking the View Code button. That means that it is still locked for editing, but we can at least see the code that was generated by NinjaTrader. So let's take a look at where this was generated. This was generated in the OnBarUpdate method. And you'll notice that it is in between an opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. These curly braces basically denote a block of some kind of actions that are going to take place. Whenever OnBarUpdate is called, anything between the open and closing curly brace is going to be triggered. It's very similar for the if. The if is known as a branching command. And the way that this works is you're going to have a set of parentheses. In between these parentheses, we're going to have some kind of statement that will need to be evaluated as a true or a false. So this CrossAbove right here, if I hover over the CrossAbove, this causes the IntelliSense to appear. The IntelliSense is extremely useful. It will tell you exactly what is needed for this method to work correctly. It also lets you know what will be returned by that method. And the way that I can read this is, starting from the left, it has bool here. It's letting me know it's going to return a bool. A bool is a true or a false. And a true or a false is what is needed for an if statement. So basically, we'll say if, we'll have our statement evaluate as true or false. If the statement evaluates as true, anything in between the open and closing curly braces will be triggered. Now for the CrossAbove, we also have another set of parentheses. This set of parentheses opens here and closes here. And everything in between is supplied to the CrossAbove. Now the CrossAbove, if we hover above this, it lets us know that this is going to need 3 overloads. These overloads are separated by commas. We can see this in the IntelliSense that's appearing here. So we have bool first. That lets us know it returns a bool. It's letting us know that the CrossAbove method is part of the strategy base, which means that it's available to all strategies. Then we have the SMA. This is the first parameter that is given to, as an overload, to the CrossAbove method. You can see that the CrossAbove method is looking for a iDataSeries object, series 1, a second iDataSeries object, series 2, followed by an integer, which is the look-back period, number of bars we're going to be looking for this cross to have happened in. The SMA that we're supplying is a full data series. We are supplying to this a 7, which is the parameter, and this is the period for the SMA. So just like the CrossAbove has its parameters, data series 1, data series 2, and the look-back period, the SMA also has a parameter. If we hover above it, it lets us know it's an integer, and it's the period. So we have SMA. This returns a, if we hover on it, it returns a data series object. So this will be data series 1. SMA with the 14, this will be data series 2. And the 1 here, this is going to be that look-back period. Now once we've got all of the parameters for the CrossAbove, we close this with a closing parenthesis. And then there is another closing parenthesis for the if. So we open the if with the parenthesis, we close the if with the parenthesis. This makes one branching command. Once this is true, anything that is in the following, anything that is after the following curly brace is going to be evaluated, not evaluated, but is going to be triggered once that if statement is true. Now we can also do things such as nest an if statement. And what that means is this if statement can be true and will trigger everything in this block of action, but we can also put in another if statement and block of action within this. First of all, we're still in our locked code. Let's go ahead and copy this over to our unlock script so that way we can modify this. What we're going to do is we're going to take everything inside of the action block of the OnBarUpdate script. So that is after the curly brace, and we're going to look for the closing curly brace. Now, NinjaTrader kind of gives a hint at you for this. I'm sorry about that. When I put my mouse on the closing curly brace just after it, you'll notice that it automatically highlights the opening curly brace for this. This is simply to help us understand the containers. So if I were to remove the curly brace here, well, this would give us not only an error message, but as I put my cursor next to that, it would no longer match this opening curly brace and instead would start be matching this one. It would let me know that my containers are not paired correctly. So let's take everything within the OnBarUpdate, right click, and we're going to select copy. And then over in the unlock script, I'm going to actually put my cursor here. I'm going to right click and select paste. So I've just copied the text over. The important thing is that it is in between the curly braces. So as you can see, if it's going to go from one script to another, we just need to make sure that they're in the correct areas. For all of the methods, it's pretty much the same story. If it's going to go and initialize, it needs to be between these curly braces. Okay, so I've talked about curly braces, and I've talked about parentheses. I've somewhat touched on the comma here. The comma is used to separate parameters if there are multiple parameters that are given to a method, such as CrossAbove. As I was mentioning before, if I were to remove a curly brace here, not only will I get error messages, but with these error messages, I can also show that my curly braces are not matched correctly by putting my cursor here. Let me go ahead and put that back, and that clears my error messages. So the next thing I want to talk about is before I move on from syntax, I was mentioning before that the SMA is returning an entire data series. And what that means is it's something like an array. A data series is going to have many different values, and each one of those values is going to be accessed by a key. And that key is usually just a number. For a data series, that key is actually a number for the bars ago. The way that this works, let's say that I wanted to know if on the current bar, and I'm going to make a new if statement for this, if on the current bar I want to know that the SMA is greater than the close, right? So we want to know if the SMA of the current bar is greater than the close price of the current bar. And the way that we would do this is by accessing a particular element of the SMA data series. So I would do that by calling SMA, and I would give it a value for the period. And once I've done that, I'm going to use an open bracket, and this is the open bracket. This is what that looks like. The next number will be my bars ago value. I'm going to type a 0 here for 0 bars ago, which is the current bar. Now, instead of it giving me an entire data series, by using this bracket 0 bracket, I am actually asking for a particular value, which is a double. So by giving it a bars ago value, I'm actually now asking for a particular element from that data series, and I'm asking for the current bar. And then I would say greater than, and then I could type in close. And let's say that instead of I wanted the SMA to be greater than the close of the current bar, let's say that I wanted to do the close of the previous bar. So for the previous bar, I would put a 1 for 1 bar ago in that bracket, and then a closing parenthesis for my if statement. And then this, of course, would be followed by an opening curly brace and then a closing curly brace. But you'll see here the SMA returns a data series. This close right here is also a data series. If I hover over this, it lets me know it's an iData series object. And then by putting on the bracket here and putting on the bracket 1 bracket, this lets me know that I'm actually asking for a particular element of the close, and that's going to be using a bars ago value. So with the 1, I'm asking for the close 1 bar ago. And that's just kind of in general how arrays work. Arrays and data series, they are very similar. Lists, key value pairs, dictionaries, these are all different types of structures that hold multiple elements. Okay, so that's talking about the keys there. The next thing I wanted to talk about is error messages. So with the error messages, as I'm typing here and I make a mistake such as, I don't know, I put a dot in a place where it's not supposed to be, immediately as I'm typing, the NinjaTrader will check for errors in the syntax. And if it finds an error, it's going to do its best to try and tell you what line that is on, or at least the first line after that that's getting issues because there has been an error somewhere. So while this doesn't tell us exactly what the error is, it does tell us that it's on line 55. Now here's something else about errors. By the way, here's the line number here. It lets us know it's line 55. Let's say that we can't even see line 55 on the screen. And I just want to be taken to that error very quickly. I can double click on this error message and it's going to take me right to line 55, or whatever line is showing here in the line column. Now the error is on this line. It doesn't know exactly what's causing the error. But if I remove that period, the error goes away. If I were to remove a closing parenthesis, this time it actually knew what the error is. Again, it tells me the line number. Just put that back and my error goes away. Same with the curly braces. Oops. Again, see right there, I made a mistake and didn't even realize it, but my error message told me what it was. I was able to find it very quickly. Put that missing bracket on there, error goes away. If I remove an opening curly brace, I'm going to get an error. I may not know exactly what's causing the error, but I can tell about where the error is starting. It's giving me a closing curly brace here, and it's letting me know that this isn't making a whole lot of sense here. There's obviously something missing. It's my curly brace. I'm going to go ahead and put that back. The last little thing I wanted to go over is the semicolon. The semicolon is used after every action. So anytime you're not asking a question, such as if there's a CrossAbove, if you're actually causing an action, that action is going to end with a semicolon, and that simply means terminating a command. And most of the reason that it's used is because it is possible to write multiple commands on the same line. It's very bad practice to do that, but the computer understands it exactly the same. So if I want multiple actions to happen here, so I have enter long, that puts me into a long position. I can also trigger an alert. So alert, and we'll give it a string ID, my alert. Message, and then a color. I'm just randomly choosing colors. I'm not actually planning to keep this code. I just want to demonstrate that now that I am at the end of my line here, I'm going to terminate this by hitting the semicolon. So once I've got that semicolon in there, that terminates the command. My error message goes away, and I am now ready to compile. Okay, I have a few questions about this. Oh, you know what? Before I continue, I have one more thing. This is back on error messages. We're still talking about error messages here. I was showing how if we have an error message, let's take that semicolon off here. So we have an error message, and this error message is in the sample script copy script. Now what happens if I am in another script and there's an error somewhere else? Is it possible to find where that error is? So I am now in sample script, and I can't even write in here, it's all locked. But I'm going to right click and I'm going to compile. What I want to point out is down here at the bottom. On the sample script copy where the actual error is, this error is yellow. And since it's yellow, it lets us know that the error is in the same file that the message is appearing in. But if we go over to the sample script, this error is orange. And the orange is just letting you know that the error is not in this file. It's in another file. So they are color-coded. Orange means different file, yellow means this file. So we have this error, we know that it's in another file, so we want to know what file it is. To find this, we can look in the NinjaScript file column, and it actually has the name of the script. It actually has the file name here. So we can actually find which script is causing the error. Now all of the scripts compile at the same time. And this is just to be sure that as you compile one script, it doesn't cause any errors with any other scripts. Make sure that everything is complete, all the dependencies are checked, everything is good to go. So it's just a kind of a shortcut for you. If you pay attention to the color and you take a look at the NinjaScript file, you can very quickly find out why something, or excuse me, what is causing the compile errors, where they're coming from. And of course, if I double click on that error message, not only does it take me to the file that is causing the error, but it also takes me to that line that's causing the error. If I put that back, and of course I would have to save this or try and compile it. When I go back to my sample script copy, now that I have fixed that error and I compile, well, I did compile, but I made another mistake. I think I have my type over turned on. Okay, so I put the the parenthesis back, saved it, went back to the sample script, click compile, and it compiles without any issues. Okay, that was quite a bit, but let's go ahead and ask a few questions. And of course, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw those in. I'll try and stop between sections so that I can answer them. So my next question here, this one I'm actually going to show a slide for, and it's simply because if I typed it up in the window itself, it would give away the answer. So I made a slide, and that way the slide has an error. Let me get to that slide. And if you need to, there's a full screen button. If it's a little bit hard to see, I understand it's a little bit small. So if you hit the full screen button, you can take a look at that a little bit bigger. But I want you to focus on line 58. Do you see on line 58 where I have print time? And that's printing out the time of the bar. I've got print time there. And now I have a question about that line of code. Okay, so figure 1 in the slideshow. This is on line 58. When will the print on line 58 be triggered, and will this code compile? Specifically, I'm asking about where it is placed And I'm asking on when this will run. So is this going to compile and is it going to trigger after OnBarUpdate? Will it compile and not trigger? Will it not be triggered and not compile either? Will it trigger and not compile? So I did mention earlier that for certain things to happen, they have to be placed in a certain area. And specifically, I was talking about curly braces on those. So that's what this is talking about. You'll just take a look at the placement for that. And the question is will it compile and will it trigger? It looks like most of our answers are in. I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll. And I'll go ahead and review this just to kind of clarify this up. But basically, the answer is it's not going to trigger and it's not going to compile. The reason being, it is not in between the curly braces of one of these methods. So for any code to be true, or excuse me, not be true, but for any code to be triggered, it does have to be between the curly braces of something that's being called. So let me go ahead and type that print out. Let me go back to the desktop sharing. You should be able to see my screen again. I'm going to type in that line of code. And the reason why I had a slideshow for that instead of typing it in directly here is you'll notice immediately there are error messages that appear. And I felt that those error messages would be a dead giveaway, that it would not be possible to compile code if you were to type code here. So because the print is not in between the curly braces of OnBarUpdate, and it could also be in between initialize or any of the other methods, but it does have to be within one of the methods of the script. It could be inside of an if statement. It could be in between the curly braces of an if statement here. It could just be OnBarUpdate. But regardless, it does have to be between those two curly braces of an action block of code. So anywhere where you have an action, such as printing the time, has to go into an action block, and that'll be denoted by the curly braces. Okay, second question for this. And this is going back to figure 1, which of course is going to look a little bit different than my script, which I've done some editing on. So let's go back to the slideshow here. And like I said, if you need to expand that, go ahead. And I just want to know, before I continue on that, we do have a question that is definitely pertinent to what we're discussing. So I'm going to go ahead and just address this right away. The question is it the 0 or is it the whole line? And it's going to be the whole line. So I do understand that the underscore here that's red is just underneath the 0. But anytime you have any kind of action, so let's say that I were to try and do an interlong here. Now it does not have any parameters, but the interlong can also, since this is an action, this interlong cannot go in this section either, and it also generates errors. So this interlong, it just needs to go within the action block. Any kind of action that is terminated by a semicolon, this kind of action will need to be within the action block of some kind of method. So as far as the underscore and why that's just under the 0, I really don't know why the IntelliSense is doing that. It's not perfect at understanding the errors in the code. It can just let you know that something's not going to compile and generally tell you what line is causing the issue that's preventing it from compiling. And if we were to double click on that, I mean, it's kind of hard. It's not really telling us exactly what's wrong, but it is kind of telling us the general area that's causing the problem. And just part of experience from being a programmer just kind of tells you where, what's causing the issue here. So that's just that's actually why I brought this up for this webinar, simply because it's a pretty common mistake to put things outside of a method, outside of the action block of a method. So it's just one of those things that I wanted to address, simply because it's not necessarily straightforward when you first get started. So just to keep that in mind, and actually let me go back over to the desktop sharing section. This is the interlong that I put in here. If I erase the print time and I try and compile interlong, it does not like that either. Any kind of action does need to be in the action block. So print time, that's what we were just talking about. And okay, just back to where we were. Looking at figure 1, on what line could these be moved to run once per bar? On bar update, if you have taken a look at the strategy wizard webinar, you'll know that on bar update runs once per bar. It also runs once per tick if calculate on bar close is set to false. But just in a general sense here, if we wanted this to run once per bar, what method would we move this into? And there's actually multiple answers for this that are correct. I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll. So the answers here, you guys all got them correct. 1 and 4 would both be correct here. So if we go back to our slideshow, line 51 is the opening curly brace for on bar update. As long as it were to be after this line, that would be acceptable. Number 4 is also correct. On line 55, if we were to add a new line here, this would be before the closing curly brace, and we could move it to that line as well. So there were multiple correct answers, and you guys got them correct. Great job with that. Looks like we can just go ahead and move on to the next section. And just to confirm that, I'm going to grab that print statement and throw it on line 55, or what would be line 55. My script's a little bit different now. And that compiles just fine. And if I were to move this to up here near the top, just after the curly brace for on bar update, and I compile, that also compiles without any issues. So as long as it's between those curly braces, it's going to compile. It'll also run once per bar because it's in the action block of on bar update. Okay, again, great job on that one. My last question about this section before we move on is about the error messages. How do I know if an error is in this file or if it's in another file? So if the error message appears in the same editor, is it in this file? And if would it be in a different editor window if it was for a different file? Or 2, maybe if the error message is yellow, the error is in a different file. Number 3, the NinjaScript file column will show the file with the error. And number 4, if the color is yellow, the error is in this file, and if it is orange, it is in a different file. This one is also multiple choice. We do have multiple incorrect answers, multiple correct answers. And if you recall, I was testing earlier between these two scripts. I made an error in one script. I went back to the sample script and compiled. and we ended up with error messages, how was I to identify which file that error message was coming from? And it looks like most of the answers have come in. I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll. And this one I think I may need to review just a little bit. Let's go ahead and make another error here. We'll take print, we'll put it outside of where it's supposed to be, and we'll save that. We'll come over here to our sample script, click compile. The first thing you'll notice is that it's orange, and this one's yellow. So number 4 is definitely a correct answer. If the color is yellow, the error is in this file. If it's orange, it's in another file. So when it's in the same file, the error is yellow. When it's in a different file, the error is orange. But also, in the NinjaScript file column, we can also get the actual name of the file. So we can just find out which file has the error just by getting the name from it here. And that's for any window. So 3 would also be correct for this one. So 3 and 4 would be correct answers here. All right, I'm going to try and move it along. I know that I started a little bit late and I've been kind of going a little bit slow, but we're going to try and catch up. The next part that I want to get into here is about printing. And printing is probably the most important thing that I could teach from this. This print here would print out the time of the bar. But basically, here's why prints are important. A print will just tell you the information that you're looking for. Let's say, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up an actual chart, and we're going to put our script on a chart real quick. I'm going to connect real quick for data. One moment. I'm going to connect to Kinetic. I'm just grabbing a Kinetic password. The reason I'm connecting, I actually want some data on my chart so we can actually see this strategy working. I'm going to use the ES. It's a pretty common strategy, pretty common instrument. I've right-clicked. I've gone to Strategies. I'm going to select the sample script copy. Click the New button, set Enabled to True, and I'm going to click OK. And this lets us see everywhere where there's actually been trades. And here's what we're doing. We're looking at this script, and in our mind, on this random bar here at 10:40 today, in our mind, there should have been a trade on this bar. You know, why was there not a sell short right here on this bar? So if we want to know why the strategy is behaving as it is, what we need to do is print out the values that are being checked in the conditions. So if I want to know why was there no enter short on this bar, all I need to know is whether or not this if statement came out as true or false. And the way that I can do that is by printing out the values that were being checked there. Now this is a cross below. With a cross below, the way this works, it's looking for the SMA with a period of 7 to have a greater value on the previous bar of the SMA with the value of 14, and then on the current bar that will have dropped below the value of the SMA with 14. So it starts out above and then crosses below, and that triggers as true. Well, we can write that out. There's two things we can do. We can do a print, and I'm always going to print with the time of the bar. So I'll print the time first so I know what bar it's coming from. And then I can print out the entire cross below just to find out if it was true or false. Now with the cross below here, that's going to print out true or false. The print actually wants a string here. So I'm actually going to put 2 string on this. The same can be said for the time, except for that on time, it is able to automatically put toString. But just to be consistent, I'll go ahead and put it on that too. So this will at least tell us whether or not it's true or false on each bar. So this will at least tell us whether or not it's true or false on each bar. I think I've made a typo. Nope, no typo, just needed to compile. But if we wanted to get specific about why that cross below returned a true or false, we would need to print out the values that are being checked in that cross below. So here's what I'm typing out. First of all, the time of the bar, I'm putting in a dash there as a separator. In the actual string here, what we're looking for is the SMA with a period of 7 on the previous bar, so 1 bar ago. And then I'm going to print this in the window. Now we can actually see what it is. And we're checking that it is greater than the SMA with a period of 14 on the previous bar. So that's the first part of it. We're just checking on the previous bar that the SMA with a period of 7 is greater than the SMA with a period of 14. And then for the second part of that, we're going to be checking that it is less than on the current bar. Now, just to make this a little bit easier on myself, I'm going to just copy and paste a lot of this. So I'm checking a lot of this to be the same. So I'm going to copy all the way to here and paste that onto the end. However, I'm going to change just a few things. So in the first part, we check that the SMA with a period of 7 is greater than the SMA with a period of 14. Now we're going to check that it's less than, and we're going to be checking on the current bar. So we're going to change the bar's go value to 0, change the symbol that we're looking for to less than, put in another 0 and another 0, and then close the print with a closing parenthesis and right-click and compile. So here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, on the time of the bar, SMA with a period of 7 on the previous bar, greater than SMA with a period of 14 on the previous bar. Then on the current bar, SMA with a period of 7 is less than the SMA with a period of 14. Now these prints come into the output window. So I'm going to open the output window before I run the script again. Tools, output window. Here's my output window. And now I'm going to go back to my chart. And I'm just going to reload the script. And now we're going to get a print for every bar telling us, first of all, this is our false. That's coming from the first print right here. This is the time of the bar. And then telling us the cross below, whether or not this came out true or false. Let's look somewhere where it's actually true. 1051 is actually 1050. Here we have a true, but for all the others are false. So let's go back to the bar we were looking at, right here. At 1040, which would actually be 1039, why wasn't there a cross below? So I'll scroll back up here to 1039. I see that came out as false. Now I want to know why. So I start with the SMA with a period of 7. This was at 212.57. This needed to be greater than 211.85. That is true. So the first part of this is true. Now the second part of this has to be true as well. 212.46 now needs to be less than 211.99. This part is not true. Because this is not true, this evaluated as false. There was no cross on this bar. It's going to be the same for any condition that you come up with. You can type any condition into this if statement. You can also print the values of that if statement to see how it's going to evaluate. So again, prints are the most important thing that I could say today that you should remember. A print is just going to tell you exactly why everything's behaving as it is. So if you have questions about, why did it do this, why did it do that, add a print in there. The print is going to tell you exactly why this or that happened. Let's say that even without printing all of that, let's just say I want to know when the enter short there is triggered. I could just put a print with the time of the bar within the same condition as the enter short. And if I compile that, I'll clear the output window and refresh this. We can just get prints for everywhere it was true. So 1050, we go look at 1050. There was one where it was true. The one before that, 1013, we look 1013. There's another one. So again, it's just a simple way of being able to find out what's going on with your script. Okay, a quick question about that. And we're almost done today. The question is why are prints important? Prints will allow conditions to be true so that orders can be made, or a print can provide a signal for you to use to trade. 3, a print can be added to the same action block of a condition statement as an order, and this will let you know if that condition was true and if an order was triggered from that condition. 4, printing the variables used in a condition outside of that condition will let you know if the condition will evaluate as true or false and why. Now this is multiple choice. There are multiple incorrect answers, multiple correct answers. We basically did 2 of those things where we added a few prints. We've added 2 different prints basically, and I'm asking about what those were used for and basically what prints are used for in general and why they are important. And it looks like most of the answers have come in, so I'm going to stop the poll. And as I mentioned, there are 2 answers for this. The answers here are 3 and 4. So as we are doing here, we've added a print to the same condition, the same action block of the condition set 2. It tells us that a condition was true, and it also lets us know if an order was triggered from that condition. Since they're in the same condition, we know that an order was triggered at those times simply because the print is giving us the time. And then number 4, as we did before when we were printing the values of the cross below and the values used in the cross below, that would be number 4. Outside of the condition, we were printing the values used in the condition, and we could find out if that was going to evaluate as true or false simply by looking at the numbers that it was producing. So we could actually see that the SMA with the period of 7 was not greater than the period of the SMA with the value of 14, and just looking at that and realizing that statement is not true, we could say that that if statement is going to evaluate as false. So highly, highly valuable being able to print. It tells you exactly what's going wrong with the script, and it tells you why things are going wrong, which gives you more information on how to fix the issue. Okay, last little section here. I'm going to go over this real fast, but if you have any questions, go ahead and throw those into the room. But it's just talking about the different methods and where different things go. I'm going to open up the help guide real quick. I'm not going to type all of these into the window. All of these are basically in the help guide already. So when it comes to the methods that NinjaTrader provides for you, there are several methods already made. Now you can also make your own methods, but a lot of them are defined by NinjaTrader already. As an example, the OnBarUpdate is a method. Now this method is triggered anytime a bar closes. Now if you have calculate on bar close set to false, this will also trigger once for every tick. So calculate on bar close does change how OnBarUpdate triggers. It's called on each new bar or each new tick. The initialize here, and I'm going to bring open initialize and OnBarUpdate in the help guide real quick just to show you that those are in there. Not only are they in there, but they show an example of what goes in there, and it lets you know on what time this will trigger. This lets you know that when calculate on bar close is true, it's only called on the close of each bar. Otherwise, it's called on each incoming tick. Now, it also lets you know this is the method where all of your strategy indicator core logic is contained. Now, the initialize, I'll click on initialize here. It lets you know this is called once when your strategy starts. This is used for configuring things, configuring the indicator and properties, as well as adding in things like data series or other indicators. You set values here such as the overlay or the paint price markers or even calculate on bar close. There are other things though, such as on-market data. On-market data is run once for every single piece of received information. So that's bid, ask, and last, and volume information. On-market depth is like on-market data, except that this is for level 2 information. And the reason I'm bringing this up, let's say that you have some code in the OnBarUpdate section, and that'll trigger once per bar, but you can also have more code in the on-market data section that triggers once for every received piece of data. So let's say that you want to do calculations on every tick, but you want to place your order when the bar closes. In that situation, I would say use on-market data to do your calculations, and then once the calculations are made, trigger the order in OnBarUpdate. You could also do the same thing with calculate on bar close if you were to use first tick of bar. The first tick of bar is simply true when calculate on bar close is set to false. In other words, you're updating on every single received tick, and you want to know when it's the first tick of the bar. So that's another way you could do the exact same thing. Have your calculate on bar close set to false, do your calculations without first tick of bar, and then only trigger your entry order on the first tick of the bar. Just kind of throwing that out there as just kind of general idea of what you might use that for. You've got other methods that run specific to the strategy, such as when an order executes, you can submit a stop loss and profit target. When your position updates, you can do things when the position updates. You can also close your positions when the strategy closes with on termination. So just wanted to go over a brief overview of the different methods that are available to you. Quick question in the room: can you show us an example of first tick of bar syntax? Sure, I can do that real quick. It'll be pretty much the last thing I do. The first thing I'll do is I'll just open this up in the help guide. It's under the data section, first tick of bar. Here's an already made example for you. But let's say we have a value we want to set. We have a double, my double equals, and I'll do maybe the high minus the low. So that's evaluated on every single received tick, and that's going to change in real time. But on the first tick of bar, so I'll say if first tick of bar, and I'll have my open and close curly brace. Now I can have anything I want to have happen only on the first tick of bar, even when it's evaluating on a tick-by-tick basis. So if it's the first tick of bar, and maybe I'll do a nested if, and I'll say if the position is flat. So this says if the market position is flat, enter long. Or maybe I want to do an enter long, but I want it to be at the, I don't know, maybe the close price minus this new double that we made, my double. So it moves it down the distance of the high minus the low. So this is, anyway, this is evaluated on every tick. This is only evaluated once per bar. Okay, I'm pretty much done here. I'm going to ask a few more questions just to make sure we understand this last little section here. If I want to place an exit long stop limit order at the exact moment my entry order fills, in what method do I place this in? I talked about this very briefly. Would I put this in initialize when the script starts, in on execution when there is a fill, in on market data when information is received, in on bar update when the bar closes? Again, I want to trigger the placement of an exit long stop limit at the exact moment, and I mean the very moment, that my order fills. And I'll go ahead and stop the poll. The answer for this is on execution. If we go to the help guide here, the on execution, which is part of our strategy here, this is triggered on any execution, which is a fill of an order. So if you want something to happen when an order fills, such as placing an exit order, like a stop loss, you would want to do that in on execution. Last question here. If I want to calculate a value on each tick, but place my entry order when a wrinkle bar closes, where can I place my code for each of these? Again, I want to evaluate a value on every tick, but I want to place my order when a wrinkle bar closes. Would I make the calculations in OnBarUpdate and place the orders in on execution? Would I make the calculations in OnBarUpdate and place the orders in OnBarUpdate with calculate on bar close false? Would I make the calculations in OnMarket data, place the orders in OnBarUpdate with calculate on bar close set to true, or make the calculations in OnBarUpdate, place the orders in OnBarUpdate in a condition that's checking for first tick of bar, and I have calculate on bar close set to false? So I want to calculate on every tick, and I want to place my order when the bar closes. There's multiple correct answers, multiple incorrect answers. So and that should let you know there's two ways to do it. And of the examples that I have here, two ways that it would not work. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll here. And the answers for this, first of all, I could indeed, on number 3, make the calculation in on-market data. That would be data being received for every piece of data, such as every tick. And then I would place the orders in OnBarUpdate with calculate on bar close true. So that's when the bar closes. And then number 4 is also correct. If I were to make the calculations in OnBarUpdate while calculate on bar close is false, that would update every tick. And then I could place the order in a condition that checks for first tick of bar, so that way it's only once per bar. First tick of bar basically is the last tick of the previous bar. So basically the same thing, that it would just be when the bar closes. All right, well, I got through everything I wanted to get through today. Before I go, I just want to thank you for joining me, and I want to invite you to the same time next week for the fundamentals of basic strategy creation, making a very simple strategy using the Strategy Wizard in the Strategy Wizard 301 course.